The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Rishab. I'm the marketing coordinator here at Structsoft Solutions, now part of the Great Tech Group. And I'm joined by Michael James, our software applications specialist, who will walk us through what's new in the latest MWF build for Revit 2023, which is going to be available for download by July 6. In this webinar, we'll be focusing on the updates to the wall and floor modules in specific, along with some general improvements across the MWF product line. MWF, which stands for Metal Wood Framer, is our flagship software that helps you automate and streamline the modeling and manufacturing of your timber and light gauge steel framing right inside the Autodesk Revit environment. Now, moving on to the webinar itself, please feel free to ask any questions that you may have by typing them into the questions tab of the webinar dashboard, and we shall answer them once the presentation is completed. If you would prefer to ask your question verbally instead of typing it in the GoToWebinar dashboard interface, you can raise your hand so that one of us can unmute you. And finally, you can view this webinar as a recording on our YouTube channel or our social media accounts such as LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook by 5:30 p.m. EST. And now that's it for me for the intro. I do hope you enjoy the webinar, and I'll let Michael take it over from here.
Okay, thanks, Rishab. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. So today I'm just going to go through some of the new features in the latest build of MWF. So there's a few exciting things to go through, and I'll just start off by mentioning the one of the most obvious changes to the latest build, which would be the new ribbon. Okay, so for those who are familiar with the MWF ribbon, you'll notice it looks kind of familiar to what you've seen previously, but we do have a few additional changes. So for example, we have some new icons which are representing each of our modules. For example, you can see here in Show All Modules, we have icons now which represent each of our modules, so our floor, wall, and truss modules. We also have additional icons for buttons as well, and our different tools within our menus. So those are really useful, really nice additions, which help us understand exactly what these tools are and what to expect from them as well. So as well as the icons, you'll also notice we have these tooltips as well, which appear for each of these tools, which also help us to understand exactly what these tools are capable of doing and what they can do. Okay, so that's just the first thing to go through, guys. The second thing I'll mention is the ability to do a curtain wall clash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my 3D view, go into curtain wall clash. You'll see I've got 3 panels here. Okay. So what we can do now with the curtain wall clash is previously where we had a curtain wall, we'd have to model an opening around the position of the curtain wall or where that curtain wall was positioned. Now we don't have to do that. We've got a nice bit of functionality where we can actually do a clash, which will then create an opening exactly where the curtain wall is positioned. Okay, so we can do that on our straight walls. We can do it on curved walls as well. So first of all, I'm just going to do that on my first wall here, which is almost like a door condition where you can see it's extending from the floor just up into our wall. So what I'm going to do first is select my wall and my curtain panel. And just before I go ahead and run the clash or the interference, one thing to mention is for this to actually work and take effect, we need to make sure that our curtain wall in its type properties is set to automatically embed. So I'm just going to go to my type properties, and I'm just going to ensure that automatically embed is selected just for this to run successfully. Okay. So now I've done that, I can select my wall and my curtain panel, go to my MWF Pro Suite tab, and I want to activate my wall module just so I can actually see all my icons and this module clearly. So from here, I can go to the interference option and I can click on clash detection. Okay. So now within this menu, you'll see we have the usual options. So we've got transaction interval, which will run around 250 clashes before it has a break and then goes ahead to run the next 250. And you can actually set this between 0 and 1,000. We've got angle tolerance. So if you have some members which are angled, for example, you can set the degree of rotation as a tolerance between 0 and 360. You've got parallel tolerance as well, where it will actually set a tolerance from the edge of our wall. We can set rule sets as well. If we have our marker rule sets, we can actually add those to the clash if we need to, or into the interference. But what I'm going to do anyway for now, rather than ramble, is just mention the fact that we now have this new addition So the fourth option down is curtain walls. Okay. So when running an interference, we can select the elements that we want to clash against, and those are on the list on the right hand side, as you can see here. And we can just uncheck the ones that we don't want to run in the clash, but we can then just select the ones we want to include in the clash. Here I'm just going to leave these all selected. I know I've got a wall panel and my curtain walls, so I know it's going to clash these two at least anyway. Okay, so I'm not going to run arced walls. I can run this on intersecting on a linked model as well, if I had a linked model. But anyway, for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run the clash. I hit the blue tick, and now it's going to give me the option to set a tolerance. Okay, so I can set a tolerance for the top left, tolerance left, tolerance right, tolerance top, and the bottom as well. So I'm just going to set a tolerance of around 2 inches for each of these. Okay, so I'm just going to paste these down to those ones there, and I'm going to apply these to all. There is only one opening, but if there were multiple, I could apply this to all those openings with the same tolerance and same settings. I can also define the kind of opening marker that I want to apply to this opening once it's created. So I have all my markers available here. I'm just going to select my LGS default non-bearing, and I'm going to click OK. Okay. You won't see much happen there, but I can assure you that something did happen. So if I select this wall and this panel now and go to my filter, you'll see we now have an additional option in here. I maybe should have showed you this just before I run the clash, but you can see now we have a rectangular straight wall opening positioned where our curtain panel is. Okay, so if I just go ahead and show you exactly where that is, you'll see we now have this rectangular opening, and we can now treat this as an opening when we go to frame this panel. Another thing which is great about this opening being created automatically is we can apply different markers to this opening now without having to do that manually where the curtain was positioned. So it's really nice to have that feature without having to do all the legwork really. So this is our curtains panel situation where it's kind of like a door. So in a situation where we have a curtain panel which behaves more like a window, so it actually needs a sill, we can also run the clash on this element here. So just before I do that, you can see here, there is no wall opening. Okay. So I'm going to select the members just like before. I'm going to go to interference, click on clash detection. I'm going to leave these settings as they are. Hit the blue tick. Again, I'll be presented with my tolerance options. I'm going to leave these as they are and leave the marker as it is as well. Click OK. And you'll see now I have an opening which has been positioned in the wall. And just to prove it, I'll go to my filter, and we also have the rectangular straight wall opening, just like we did before. If I were to run these panels now and create a panel for these two, you'll see when I click create, okay, so I'm just going to use a default option here. So I'll go to template, I'm going to use my default light gauge and just generate 2 wall panels there. So you can see with this one here, we have our curtain wall, which is within the panel. And this one, which will have the sill members added to the bottom, just because this is behaving more like a window. Okay, so with this option on the left, if you wanted to have your bottom track split, where you wouldn't have a bottom track extend all the way across, you can deselect that option as well if you wanted to in your properties. So split bottom track. Okay, so mine is currently not split, but if I choose to split it, you'll see that it actually doesn't run the bottom track member all the way across. All right, so we also have the ability to add create a opening in a curved wall or an arced wall, as you can see here. So we have our arced wall, and again, if I select my wall and my curtain wall member or panel, and go to interference, run the same options as before, but this time what I want to do is make sure I turn on the arced walls option here, just to let it know that I'm actually dealing with an arced wall, and keep the settings the same. I'll also keep the tolerance the same, so it will add a 2-inch tolerance around the edge. With the same marker, I'll click OK, and as we can see here, we have our opening, which is positioned just here, rectangular arc wall opening. And if I was to generate this, you'll see with my default option, it'll just go ahead and generate our wall panel. Okay. So that's a really nice feature which has been added into the latest release of MWF, which takes me nicely onto my next one. So if I go back to my options here, we have H-studs. So I'm just going to go to my 3D views, go to H-studs, and we can see here I've got my H-stud markers which have been enabled to show in 3D, and that's why we've got these objects here. So what I'm going to do is, well, what I've done is I've already created the H-stud markers. So I've created type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4, all with the different configuration options that we have in the latest version. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my marker manager. Okay, so while that loads, then I will go to my wall framing, and under H-stud pack, I have my different H-stud markers that I've created. Okay, so nice ones that these are some I've made earlier, kind of thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this one here just to show you exactly what makes up this stud marker at the moment. Okay, so we have the ability to select our left member for our H-stud, our middle members, and our right member as well. So at the moment, our left member is set to none. Okay, so I could choose a specific family to add on for the left member. I could choose to repeat that member as well, so I could have one or more than one member. So at the moment, that is not adding an additional member, but if I chose to select this one and didn't say to repeat, but just to place one, I'd be selected there. Middle members, I can choose to have 1, 2, 3, or 4. This was previously 2, so you only had the option of adding 2 previously, but now we have the option of adding 4 members. The other thing we can do as well is if we select 2 members, then it will grey out the options for 3 and 4, just because those are not needed if we only need 2 members. We can also set the option to apply the same settings across all of the members as well. So if I have set the options for this one, for example, I can then say I want 2 members and I want the settings to be the same for the second one as the first one. Okay. So here we can set the family, we can set the type, and we can set the cutback and extension behavior as well. We can add a flip, a rotation, we can flip the outermost stud, and we can stamp these for dimensioning as well. And if we need to add an offset, we have the ability to add an offset as a plus or a minus in order to add an offset for that. With our nested option, we can place a member at the top of our H-stud, and then we can also add connectors as well, so a connector family for that. And for our right member, we have the same options as seen previously for our left member. So I'm just going to quickly apply these, set that to none, and click OK for this one. Okay, so I'm going to update this instance. That's absolutely fine. Best practice, guys, for future reference, don't overwrite an existing stud. Please duplicate because that's best practice. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and click OK here. And I'm just going to create this panel. Okay, so I'm going to go to MWF, go to create, and I'm just going to go ahead and create this from my default light gauge. Okay, set as active and create. Okay, so as you can see, for my markers, I have my H-stud here, and I've got my H-stud with 1 member, with 2 members, 3 members, and with our 4th members. Here our 4-member option there as well. So that's just another addition to the latest version of MWF, which has been added as another option, really. Okay, so back to our starting screen. The next thing we have is the Sill Track option. Okay, so the Sill Track option has been around in previous versions, but there are some new additions which makes this even better than before. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this panel. Oh, sorry. No, I'm going to go to my marker manager. Sorry, just had a blank there. Okay, so in my marker manager, I can go to my multi-system marker. Okay, so as you can see here, I've got my multi-system, multi-built up member system marker. I'm going to click into this one. And you can see here, I've got my multi-system marker. So what we do have now is some additional Sill options. So with our Sill Track option selected, so we can choose to override the template settings first of all, which activates these options here. And what we can do is we can choose to add a Sill Track, built up sill, or an interlocking sill. But now we have the option to add a Sill Track and override the template settings for the family members that are used in the template. So rather than use the ones inside of the template, we can actually override those with something different if we need to. With our Sill Track connection, we can add a short cripple stud. We can define the length, and we can choose the family member which is used for the short cripple stud as well. So this is shown as a BIMSF in the BIMSF description as an O-shoe member, an opening shoe member. So you will see that as the definition when we go ahead and just add these in. So I'm going to go ahead now. So I've got a Sill Track connection, which has been defined here. The size is around 6 inches. So you'll see this when we generate the panel. We can add a clip as well. So we can place a clip at the position of the short cripple. And if we wanted to make this into a sub-assembly as well, we can have that option there as well. Another thing to mention is these options are also available for our headers as well. So if I go to header track, you can see here I also have Sill Track connection, short cripple stud, and some additional options there as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click OK. And again, duplicate, guys. Okay, so I'm going to update this one for now, just for the purpose of the webinar. Okay, I'm going to click OK. And I need to make sure I apply the multi-system marker now to this opening. So I do have a wall opening here, as you can see. I've got that selected, it's on my rectangular straight wall opening. I just need to apply the multi-system marker here. So I'll go to markers, apply opening type. And yep, just make sure that is the right one. Multiple built-up system marker. Great. Hit the blue tick. And now I just need to regenerate just to make those changes evident in the model. Okay, so I'm going to go to MWF and regenerate. Okay, so now we have these additional elements. So the short cripple that has been added in as well to the panel. Let me see, my clips, have they been added? Oh, I totally changed the header as well. Apologies for that, guys. But it has added the short cripple member. And as mentioned, the BIMSF description for this is O-shoe. And that gives us the option to add these connection members for the bottom of our sills. It has added the clips, but it's added them to the header option, which I think I clicked on, actually, unfortunately. Okay, so there is the option to add those additional options in our cells. Okay, so back to our starting screen. The next thing to mention is our one of the things I'm most excited about is the ability to create template maps for not only floors, but roofs and ceilings now. So if I go to my 3D view, we have a floor, we have a ceiling, and we have a roof. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to create a template map for each of these elements. So first of all, I'm going to go to my floor module. Okay, so just like before, we still create these members, or at least the ceiling and the floor ones in the floor module. So now what I need to do is go to my template map option. Sorry, so I'll go to template map. Sorry, it's on my other screen. Okay, and from here we have our template map settings where we can add a new template map group. So as you can see, I've added one here previously, but now I can populate that with floor, ceiling, and roof category template maps. So if I click on floor, that will just add in a floor template map. If I click on ceiling, again, I'll get a different option, and roof will add a third option there as well. So when I choose to add a specific template map, it will ask me, where do you want to add that? Do you want to add it to the floors, ceilings, or roof? And I can just define which one I want to choose in this case. Okay, so for example, I'll click on floor. I can click on all three. If I click on one, it will add one. If I click on all three, it will add an option for all three, as you can see there. I can also choose to delete. Okay, so delete will just delete the one that's currently active at the moment, which is the floor by that chance. Okay, so I'm going to click on floor again just to add that one back in. So from here, I will go ahead and add my floor. Apologies, let me see. Which one was it that I used? I believe. Okay, that one. And then we have our ceiling type, which was this one, and I have my roof type, which is the generic 10-inch. Okay, and now from here, I can just go ahead and choose my template. So I've got my Revit family types here. I've got my templates that I can define. I'm going to go ahead and choose my 6-inch LGS for my floor, my 3-inch LGS for my ceiling, and the 10-inch LGS for my roof. Okay. So now I've added the maps and I've chosen those for each category. I can go ahead and if I wanted to, I could choose to frame it now, or I can just choose to regenerate them afterwards. So once I'm in the model, I can just choose to regenerate them there. I can also choose to create panels on all floors in the current view, which will just add the panels to all these elements which meet the criteria in the current view. Okay, so if I say frame it now, I have this option. So when I go to MWF, quick create, it will pick up on these elements and it will just apply the template map to these. With the roof option, we have the option of choosing the top face or the bottom face to be the reference. I'm just going to choose the bottom face. With the top face, you'll see it will add the nodes at the top surface. With our bottom face, it will add them at the bottom surface, as you can see on our ceiling here. So just like with the ceiling, we've got them placed at the bottom, and you can see that that's applied the template map to these elements. That's a nice addition to the useful tools that we have in the latest edition of MWF. And I really think this is a great addition just for productivity, really. Okay, so that is our template map option. Next, we have the repeat modify. Okay, so in our floors, we have the ability to add extra members to our joist, so our joist members. So I'm going to click on this floor member. I'm going to go to the properties. And inside of my properties, so my member properties, I want to go to the extra joist option. Okay, so from here, I'll double click on this to open up my properties. And under repeat modify, we can make some changes to our joist members. So we can choose specifically which member we want to modify or repeat. So we can choose to copy it or add additional members to the left or to the right. We can change the positioning. We can move them upwards or downwards with a lateral offset. And we've got the centered option as well, which will just center if we had two members, rather than move them both to the right, it will just center them and offset them outwards from the center, that kind of thing. So we can make some changes here. So I can see in my instance properties, I have my joist number 5 selected. So if I click on J5, and I could say, for example, I wanted to add another member to the left. Okay, I could choose for that to be centered, and I can just add that. Okay. I've also got some configuration options here as well, where I can choose for it to be a double stud, triple. We've got triple boxed, quadruple, face to face. So we've got a few options that we can configure here and change for our extra stud options here. Okay. So for now, I'm just going to add the second one to the left and click OK. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead, click OK again. And as you can see in my model, I've got the additional member which has been added to the left side. Okay, the spacing will be equal distant from both sides of this member because it's been centered. And that's the thing that we can do now. We can add these modifications to specific studs in our floor panels. So that's a really nice addition as well, where we need it. All right. So the next thing to mention, guys, is our ability to update the profile of floors, roofs, and ceilings. So it can get annoying where we have to remodel things, maybe have to change the profile, change the shape of things, and then we have to go ahead and make a load of changes just to make sure it's consistent. But now with this additional tool, we don't have to have so much of the legwork. We can just go ahead and update the profile of our floors, which was previously available in earlier versions of MWF. But now we can also do that with ceilings and roofs as well. So that's just a really nice addition as well. So if I go ahead and select my floor, so I'm going to my filter, just select my floor, edit my boundary. Okay, so this is nothing new, guys. This has been available before. Okay, so that's that. And now I can hit my green tick to just say, I've made this change, and that's that. Okay, so I can go into my Pro Suite tab, and I could say, update the profile. Okay, so, sorry, I need glasses. Okay, so update profile, and you can see it's made that change where it's just extended those nodes and the model lines just to match the new profile for our floor. And if I was to go ahead and regenerate, you'll see that that works perfectly. Okay. I'll go ahead and make those changes to the roof and ceiling as well, just to show that we have that new additional functionality with those elements. So I can select my ceiling. I can edit the boundary. Okay, so I'm going to align it. So AL, select this point here. And then again, sorry, hit the green tick and regenerate. Okay. Oh, sorry, update profile. Totally forgot about that step. Okay, so update profile, glasses. Okay, there we go. And again, regenerate. Great. Okay, so as you can see, it's made that change, and that's just one less thing that we have to do when we are regenerating our floors and other elements as well. And just for effect, I'll just do it with the last element as well. Okay, so I'm just going to check none, click on roofs. Okay. Edit footprint. I'm going to align that as before to this line here. Okay, escape. Okay, so I just need to update my profile. Okay. Sorry about this, it was on my other screen. Okay, so we have the option to choose again, top or bottom face. Okay, and again, I can just choose to regenerate. So that's just two nice additions where we can update the profile of roofs and ceilings in just a few clicks, really, guys. Okay, so that's just nice, nice option there. All right. So the last thing to mention for our floors is the selection drop-down menu. So the additional selection drop-down menu. So this adds to the making it feel a bit more consistent with the wall module. So we have the selection options within our wall module where we can select. We have our selection menu, but now we have the option of having the selection menu within our floors as well. So there we go, and we have select non-frame floors and all the same options that we have of our walls. So if I go to my selection menu view, you can see I've got my floor panel. Okay. So from here, I could choose to select non-frame floors. If I had multiple floors in my project, I could select the ones which haven't been framed, and then I could quickly frame them. Identical groups if I had modeled groups for floors, and some of the other things that you may be familiar with or may not be. There's a few options here that we can play around with. For example, select panel members. We'll just select all the members belonging to this floor nice and quickly. So including the sheathing as well, guys, it's also added the sheathing to our selection as well. So that's a nice addition as well. And if I wanted to view the panel members, okay, so when I click on view panel members, that will just show me all the members which are within this panel. And I can sift down into these panel members and view all the properties for these members. When I click on these options as well, it will zoom into the panel member in my view. And that's nice and useful just for me to see exactly what it's referencing in the view. So for example, sheathing, My sheathing is also available here, where I can select the sheathing panel, and it will show me exactly what I'm referring to here, and it will give me information relating to that as well. So that's just a really nice functionality which has been added into the latest build. And just before I forget about this, that as well, there's another. This is also available for our multi-layer walls as well, where we can also see multi-layer elements, secondary layers, and sheathing, for example. So those kinds of things. And that is it for today, guys. Thanks for listening.
All right, Michael, thank you for the demonstration there. And we'll just take a few moments to open the floor to see if you have any questions. And once again, you can raise your hand in the GoToWebinar dashboard or type it via the questions tab, and we shall answer that. In the meantime, I'd also like to invite you to visit our LinkedIn channel, where you can find regular company updates, educational content, blog posts on trending topics, and you can also view the recorded version of this webinar over there. We're just going to give it a few more seconds to see if any questions pop in. Right, that looks like a wrap for today. If you find yourself requiring further clarification with regards to this presentation, then please feel free to reach out to us. Our contact details will be provided along with the recording tomorrow via email. Additionally, if you would like to set up a one-on-one demonstration or a training with one of our product experts, we will be happy to do that as well. That's the end of this webinar. Thank you everybody for joining us today, and we do hope you have a great day ahead.